Hello, everyone. We are here today with Casey Ray, our CEO and president of Good Samaritan Boys Ranch. My name is Jamie Rayner, and I'm the development director here. And today we are going to be talking about the youth and families that we serve. So you've been here for 22 years now, right?
Yeah, over 2 decades, man.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So you have served in a lot of different roles in this organization, a therapist or director of the transitional living program. You started that program and several other roles, and now you're our CEO. So
Well, someone will correct me if we get this
Okay,
on there.
okay.
I didn't start it,
Oh,
but
sure,
I was
sure.
there for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, so you have worked with a lot of youth and families over the years. And one question we get a lot is, where do the youth and families that we serve come from? How do they come to us? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so primarily most of our kids that we work with are in the foster care system. And the foster care system is a very unique system. When we get kids and families that come in, sometimes there's a stigma associated with foster care and kids in foster care and parents, and sometimes those are kind of unfounded. And so lots of the kids and families that we work with, they're just needing support and needing help, and we are the vehicle for that many times. And so we do our best to help bring them in, match them up with the support of their service that they need, and then hopefully get them back out and get them back on their own.
Yeah, so you mentioned that sometimes there's a stigma with foster care. What does that usually look like?
You know, it can look in lots of different ways. I think over the past few years, I think it's more coming into our consciousness of what we do to kids and families in foster care. I think there was a time where the viewpoint was that we were going in and like saving these families, saving these kids, and the truth is that when you take kids out of a home, it's pretty damaging, and then you vilify parents and those kind of things. And sometimes, sometimes there's an abuse and neglectful situations where you really need to help kids get out of that and get some help. But oftentimes what we've discovered is that kids are taken into foster care not necessarily for abuse or neglect, but really it's more kind of poverty issues, things that it's not them choosing to mistreat their kids or not feed their kids, they're choosing to pay rent and there's not enough food in the house. And so we, in an effort to protect kids, have started taking kids out of their homes to protect them. And I think we've gotten smarter over the years, not us as the ranch, but the system has gotten a little bit smarter in some of those areas, and we're trying to do better work on the prevention side of things. But lots of times those families get the stigma of being abusive, and when really they're falling on tough times and don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah, and especially for those situations that are rooted in poverty, poverty is something we can change. We can really do something about that.
Yeah, resources, right? Connections. Yeah. The difference between a poverty mindset and having a surplus mindset, right, is really about the connections that you have. I was in a meeting a couple years ago, and it dawned on me, we were listening to some families with lived experience. They had been through the foster care system, they had seen the highs and the lows, and had a really tough time with it. And as they were talking, she was just saying, I don't have anyone to turn to. And she said, if my plumbing breaks down, I don't even have a plumber. And I started thinking, I got a guy, right? And that was kind of the phrase that we began to talk about is that people don't realize sometimes the blessings that they have. But something breaks down in my car, well, I got a guy, right? I need something fixed, I need a handyman, well, I got a guy. But for so many of these families, they don't got a guy. And that's the difference, make or break sometimes, is making sure that they're surrounded. They don't have a guy. And so maybe we can start to change that narrative and help some of these families get a guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And even I know we talk about that for our youth who are aging out or have aged out of foster care at 21 here in Missouri, is they might be making ends meet. Maybe they're able to pay all of their bills and they have a steady job and steady housing, but the moment a crisis comes, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, and first off, what a blessing in Missouri that they age out at 21.
Yes.
We are very lucky. That's not the same in other states. I recently was at a meeting where some of these kids are aging out at 17, 18, 19 years old in other states. So first off, we're blessed at 21. But yeah, these kids in one moment, on their birthday of all things, lots of those services cease in one moment. On a day of celebration is a day of fear oftentimes. And so really, truthfully, we hope we've prepared them well if they're in our programs, that they are set up for the future. It also informs kind of where we want to go and how we want to support kids moving forward in our programs.
Could you tell us maybe an example of the families that we serve, someone like them, or maybe even a family we've served that has fallen on those hard times, maybe is struggling to get through the challenges that come with being in poverty, and it's affected their kids and maybe where their kids ended up in foster care?
Yeah, I was thinking of a story I heard at a meeting a couple of years ago probably. And it was about this young mom. She had, I think her child was like 4 years old, maybe 3 years old. They were behind on rent. They had kind of an eviction notice pending that would have made them homeless. And so middle of the night, her child's asleep. She gets called into work. And in that moment, she has to make a really difficult choice. Do I go to work and potentially pay the bills and keep our home? Or do I stay with my sleeping child who it's the middle of the night, that is likely going to sleep through the night? And so she made the choice to go get a few extra hours at work. And unfortunately for her, during that moment, the child wandered out of bed, wandered out of the apartment, wandered down the hall, knocked on somebody's door, and boom, child services is called. The child is taken away. I'm not sure she ever actually got the child even back or is working towards that, or perhaps, but in that moment, that deficit of resources, not being able to call somebody, say, hey, can you come and just crash in my house? I got to get a few hours work. Not having that social currency to be able to navigate that. Even a neighbor, right? Even going down the hall herself and being like, hey, Bob, Gretchen, can you come watch my kid? She did not have that, and the result is now this trauma of this kid and this family being torn apart, and it's 100% poverty related. And just a deficit of resources and relationships and those kind of things. Poverty is more than just money. You can be poor in many areas, and so we think of it just in finances. But if you have experienced poverty in your relationships, you don't have a support network. That's just as crippling as not having a dollar to your name.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for us, with our daughter, we have several people that we could call if we were in a pinch about something, and that I'm so grateful for because so many people don't have that. What misconceptions have you seen or experienced about the youth and families that we serve?
So, I'm very passionate about this one, so I'm adjusting my chair so you see my passion. Here's what, sometimes we think these families are, we talk about deficits, right? So we sometimes think that equates to being weak, right? But I don't think we realize how strong these families are. These kids we talk about 22 years I've been here. I've seen kids and families in all these different contexts. The resilience and the strength of the kids that we work with is unrecognized, oftentimes by those of us that work with them, but it's also unrecognized by themselves. These kids view themselves as weak, and they don't realize how incredibly strong they are. The things that they have survived and been through. You take me and put me into those situations, and I will melt and I will wither. These kids stand strong. And then we fault them sometimes for standing strong and making poor choices. And we all make bad choices in the midst of difficult things sometimes. But they fail to see, even in themselves, just how strong and resilient they are. So that's, in terms of what I've been passionate about for 22 years with this organization, seeing kids start to grasp the power and the strength that they actually do possess is one of the most life-changing things that we get the honor of witnessing at this organization.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's something I definitely love also about all of our programs that we have, is that really at the end of the day, our goal is to encourage the youth and families we serve and to help them see the good and the potential that is inside of them that just has been maybe buried.
It's ready to come out.
Yes, it's ready, and we get to help them uncover that and help them reach that potential, which is so awesome.
It's kind of the big reason we're here.
Yes, absolutely. What other things would you want anyone watching this video to know about our youth and families?
this is where I talk to you or no.
Yeah.
Here's what I want you to know. Here's what I really truly would say is, at the end of the day, these are just kids and families. They are not all that different from us. And I think anything we can do to destigmatize little things like just being able to ask for help. Some families are reticent to ask for help because they know that asking for help could end up with them perhaps getting their kids taken away or end up in an investigation or those kind of things. But the truth is that even other adults, sometimes I find it difficult to ask for help. So as we destigmatize, let's destigmatize mental health, like going to counseling and going to therapy. It's not for those that are messed up. It's for those that want to continue to work through and live through this life that we're all going through. So destigmatizing some mental health, making sure that we're recognizing human beings for human beings, and that we're not all that different. We're variations on the same thing, and we're really a lot closer than we realize sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone else watching this video, if you would like to support the youth and families we serve, we welcome that. You can make a donation online at ranchlife.org/donate, or if you'd like to volunteer your time or your services, we'd love to talk to you about that, and you can just comment on this post or send us an email, and we'd love to talk to you further. Thank you so much for watching.